Okay, we are still continuing on the modes of transport, and today we are going to focus on the rail transport. An example of a rail transport is a train. So generally, rail transport is commonly used to move heavy and bulky goods over long distances. The rail transport system in most countries is government owned because of the high initial capital costs. Rail transport provides transport for both goods as well as passengers. So now we want to move on to the advantages of rail transport. Number 1, rail transport can carry bulky and heavy goods. It is a cheap mode of transport over long distances. So that's why companies prefer this mode of transport. Also, it is fast over long distances, especially when using electric trains. Rail transport can carry large quantities of goods at a time. Also, rail transport can carry dangerous cargo. Different types of wagons are available to carry different types of goods, such as tankers for fuel. So we are saying rail transport is also recommended to carry things like fuels because it have got different wagons. So that one is also an advantage. Also, it operates on fixed routes to a fixed timetable, meaning to say there are no delays when using rail transport. Still on the advantages, rail transport has low fuel costs, so someone can prefer it because in terms of fuel it is cheap. It is not affected by bad weather as compared to other modes of transport like air transport can be easily affected by bad weather, but when it comes to rail transport it does not affected by bad weather. Also, there are fewer accidents and less congestion in rail transport. Then lastly, rail transport requires less labor in relation to the size of the train. So these are the advantages of rail transport. So now we want to move on to the disadvantages of rail transport. Number 1, it is very expensive to set up. Like the railway tracks must be constructed and it's very expensive. Then train engines and wagons must be bought and stations must be built, hence it becomes so expensive. Secondly, it is slow and expensive over a short distance. So when you are supposed to transport your goods to a short distance, you have to prefer other modes of transport because when you are using rail transport it becomes slow and expensive. Also, rail transport is not flexible as it follows a fixed route and fixed timetable. It is not readily available. It means you have to wait for its timetable because it's fixed. Also, another disadvantage, it lacks door-to-door delivery as comparing to the road transport. it can offer door-to-door delivery, but when it comes to rail, it does not offer such. We move on. There is a higher risk of theft and damage to the goods when you are using this mode of transport. Also, it has higher incidence of disastrous accidents. It's not rare, but when accidents occurs, it's very disastrous. Then lastly, it has high insurance costs. So these are the disadvantages of using the rail transport. So in our next lesson, we are going to look on the pipeline transport.